Good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is a regularly called and scheduled Greer City Council meeting called this evening, April the 28th, 2020. Having called the meeting to order and convened the meeting, I'd like to ask if Council Member Lee Dimas will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation for council. Mr. Dimas?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one
nation,
nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this night that you've given us in this great council that you've allowed us all to be part of in this great city that we serve. Bless those in need this evening, bless those in harm's way, and continue to enrich and bless the servants of your city tonight in your meeting. May your will be done. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for joining us this evening. We are live streaming this meeting, and as you can tell, have a number of staff members as well as others that will join us through the course of the meeting this evening. It is a extensive agenda, to say the least. My copy is about a forest and a half, so we'll try and move expeditiously through the agenda, but give proper time and attention as needed to those items that we will come to tonight. Ms. Duncan, anyone to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, then we will review the minutes of the council meeting from April 14th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion that those be received.
So moved.
Mr. Bettis, and a second by?
Second.
Got Mr. Hopper beat Ms. Albert to the punch. We have a motion and a second on that. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Thank you, council. We will move to departmental reports. You have those contained in your packet this evening. Links to those reports are there for your review. We will be glad to answer any questions that you have in regards to those reports, either by a contact with the administrator or with the department head. They'll be glad to help you. With that,
Mayor, we do have a report from finance.
We do have a report from finance. Is Ms. Howell with us this evening? Ms. Howell.
Yes.
I don't see you on the screen. There you are. Okay. We will have a financial report from Ms. Howell this evening.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to give a financial summary as of March the 31st, 2020. Starting with our general fund, our year-to-date revenue is $21,478,000. The year-to-date expenses are $22,517,000, which is 4% over budget. But if you'll refer to your dashboards where we compare actuals to benchmarks, you'll see that we do have a negative overall variance there of $1,548,000. But looking to the cash balance in the general fund, we have $17,100,000. Moving on to the hospitality fund, the year-to-date revenue is $1,817,000. The expenses are $2,146,000, and the cash balance in that account now is $889,000. Finally, the stormwater fund, the year-to-date revenue is $1,358,000. The expenses are $946,000, and our cash balance in the stormwater fund is $1,498,000. That's it. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate the update. Council, any questions in regards to the financial report? We will have more information as well from Mr. Driggers in his report following that. Ms. Howell, thank you for that information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, then, we will move to the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to give you a bit of an update on where we are relative to our response to COVID-19, how we're involved continuing in that process. As we've reported previously, we continue to monitor the governor's orders. That's one of the driving forces behind our reactions. And so we are, as the executive orders were reissued this past week, extending to the home or work order that will be in force until May the 12th. Everything that we have in place as far as operations are staying as they have been previously reported to you. Our lobbies remain closed. We continue to operate all of our operations as normal. Our police, fire are fully staffed and doing what they do on a day-to-day basis. Again, all of our departments are working, albeit some are working remotely, and we're doing some alternative scheduling, bringing people in on alternating days as we need to do that. We are anticipating that those orders will lift here eventually, and as that starts to happen, we have plans in place for us to start preparing for the reopening of our parks and our facilities, our recreation programs. We certainly have, we're preparing for how we will open our lobbies and start conducting business back inside our facilities as part of that as well, and also how we will bring those employees back into the workplace that have been working from home. We have to stay fluid in how we would roll that out. Again, mainly because we follow the governor's executive orders. And so if those were to be extended, our period for that ramp up process would be delayed as we would continue to follow those. Financial report that you've received this evening and contained in your packages, you can see how we're starting to track. We can see what we can certainly see what our March activity level was on our finance side. We are monitoring internally what we are doing for the whole month of April. We're about to roll into the month of May. We are anticipating that we will have some reduction in revenues. It's pretty difficult at this time for us to make estimates what we think that would be, but as we get a little more experience under our belt over the next couple of months, we'll start to see that. It's not happening in building and development standards. We're very, very strong on plan reviews, issuing permits, everything of all activity that takes place typically in our building and development standards department. They are at full force. There is no reduction of work that we have seen in that area. So, they're continuing to issue permits, they are continuing to do inspections, and they are continuing to issue certificates of occupancy. So that is moving along very, very well for us. We know that because we are in an emergency declaration ourselves, that emergency declaration allows for the extension of due dates relative to business license, hospitality accommodations. Those due dates reflect as the original date. April 30th is indeed that date, but any type of penalty for late payment is waived as we work through that period as well. Now, as a result of that, you will find that at your next meeting, your first meeting in May, we'll be making some recommendations on how we will need to extend that through June 30th of 2020, because we want to make sure that our business community is being allowed as much time as we can possibly allow for the payment of those business license, hospitality accommodations type dollars. if our economy locally is not in a position that you believe as a council that we are ready to proceed with that, then you will give us instruction on how we need to handle that. So that first meeting in May will give us the opportunity to make some recommendations to keep that period open. It'll also provide for you to provide us feedback on what you believe that we should do and give us our final marching orders on how to handle that. And so that decision rests solely with mayor and council, but it isn't necessary for us to do that until your first meeting in May, since we are still operating under the emergency orders here for us as a municipality. All other aspects of our operations are going very smoothly. We are being very responsive, albeit there are some modifications that we've needed to make, and we've reported that to you previously. So no changes relative to that. But we as a provider of services in our community, we too are anxious to get everyone back on board in their respective places and get our community back to normal as quick as we possibly can. But obviously, we want to make sure that we're doing that in a safe environment and that we are following those orders from our governor's office, as well as recognizing guidelines that are being recommended to us as well. Again, those final decisions will be rested with council, and we'll be bringing additional information to you in coming meetings. We are hopeful that unless there is some recension of our path forward from the governor's office, we are hoping that we're going to be able to provide some modified type scheduling of this meeting, for example. We think that we will certainly have the opportunity to those folks that could feel comfortable coming in for a meeting, that we're able to accommodate that, but we're also able to accommodate electronic voting if there are members of council that would not be comfortable coming into that environment. So we're working out those details. We have 2 weeks to prepare for that. The mayor will make that ultimate decision, but we're putting processes in place to allow for that. Certainly available to answer any questions that you may have. That your constituents may have posed to you as well.
Council, floor is open for questions from the administrator.
Does the governor's office let you know if, like there was an uptick in cases in South Carolina? Do they let you know, by zip code or county?
Well, all of that data is available on the state websites, particularly with DHEC. And so we can gather that data. We caution our community to be careful of using zip codes to identify cases. If you drill down into that data from DHEC, what you will find is that about 50% of the cases for Greenville County or Spartanburg County respective, there are about 50% of those cases that do not have identified zip codes. And so I caution folks to be careful. While that information is important and it can be helpful, it can be skewed. And so we try to be very careful not to use zip code data to guide us in decision making. But what we certainly do monitor on a day-to-day basis, we receive reports from emergency management in Greenville County and reports from emergency management in Spartanburg County that every single day tells us the number of cases that have been diagnosed in each of the respective counties. We also receive that data statewide, so we know whether or not we're starting to see the leveling that's been talked about. And so we're monitoring that, but those are health decisions that are being made through DHEC and through the governor's office, but we monitor it to be better prepared in our planning for what we would ultimately integrate into a reopening process.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Griffin, I get a daily communication from the governor's office as well too. Staff will send out typically the governor's calendar for the day, also sometimes the lieutenant governor's calendar for the day. as well as an update from the day before, and then any issues that may be coming up during the course of the day. So are getting regular communication from the governor's office.
Okay.
Others?
Mr. Driggers, have we heard from ACE as far as when they're going to go back to their regular services as far as curbside pickup with recycling and brush pickup?
Yeah, we continue to get questions from the community relative to reopening the recycling center. We are collecting recyclables at curbside. That is taking place now. We're just not being able to pick up items outside the rollout container. So we're asking that anything that's placed out inside the rollout container is in a plastic bag. We're trying our best to help prevent any type of contact that those employees could have. Because imagine, in a 5-day period, the employees of ACE Environmental, our contractor, they're being exposed to about 11,000 households with every touch of that material. So we're trying very, very hard to use automated equipment. It's important for us to use that automated equipment. What we're trying to make sure happens here is that we do not have positive COVID-19 cases in that workforce, because that indeed would put us in a garbage disposal issue that could make it very, very difficult for us if we're not able to collect what we're collecting now. So the restrictions that we have, we envision that those will be in place for several weeks yet to come, but we'll start to get a feel for when that can be lifted, as we start to get a feel for how much more interaction that we can have, that our contractors can have outside. But as long as we're in a governor's order to be at work or at home, I don't see any of that changing. So at least not through May 12th.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. With that, then we will move on. Still have openings, I believe, in terms of appointments for boards and commissions. Board of Architectural Review has a opening. I have not heard from staff in regards to a recommendation in that regard. And then also on the Planning Commission, we still have an opening in that regard, and I don't have an update on that, so I'm going to assume that both of those are waiting to be filled at this point in time. We'll move then to items of old business. You have several of those before us this evening. So we will start with the first, which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 4-2020. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Robert Brown located at 948 Old Jones Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of I-1 for said property. This comes as second reading. Mr. McMahon, any new or additional information in regards to ordinance number 4-2020?
Yes, sir. A public hearing was held on April 20th, and Planning Commission recommended approval of the I-1 zoning request. And that's all that I have at this time, sir.
Council, as I hope you heard, comes with a recommendation from Planning Commission and staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive second and final reading of ordinance number 4-2020.
So motion. So moved.
Okay. Ms. Albert and Mr. Airwood. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, the next item before us this evening is the second and final reading of ordinance number 6-2020. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of properties owned by the city of Greer located at 2299 and 2999 Gap Creek Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of R20 for said properties. Comes as a second and final reading. Do I hear any new or additional information in this regard? Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. This one also had a public hearing on April 20th, and Planning Commission recommended approval of the R20 zoning. And that's all that I have, sir.
Comes with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Griffin moves, and Ms. Albert, I believe, seconded. Discussion? Council, I did have a couple of calls and emails in regards to the single-family residential. That is the appropriate zoning for that area. As you are aware, this property is encumbered with an agreement that the city has to conservation easement for that property. So the intent is that land be preserved for public use as a golf course or a other recreational, passive recreational opportunity. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to item C, which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 10-2020. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Cheryl Lynn Grant located at 1103 Kist Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of R12 for said property. Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. Planning Commission held a public hearing on April 20th and made a recommendation of approval for the R12 zoning request. And that's all that I have for this one, sir.
Ordinance number 10-2020 comes with a recommendation for approval. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Mr. Bettis
Second.
moves. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Arrowood seconds. Comments? Questions? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Last item of old business this evening is the second and final reading of ordinance number 13-2020. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Mark III Properties located at 925 Abner Creek Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of R7.5 for said property. New or additional information in regard to ordinance number 13-2020, Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. A public hearing was also held for this one on April 20th, and Planning Commission makes a recommendation for approval of the zoning request. And that's all that I have, sir.
Thank you. Council, second reading of ordinance number 13-2020 comes with a recommendation for approval. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Mr. Arrowood makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hopper. Floor is open for discussion. Comments? Questions? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
No.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to items of new business this evening, a number of which fly ahead for us, but item A is the first and final reading of resolution number 9-2020. This is a resolution certifying 250 Victor Avenue as an abandoned textile mill site in the city of Greer, South Carolina. Reno Deaton, our executive director of the Greer Development Corp., joins us this evening to give us an overview of the resolution certifying 250 Victor Avenue. Mr. Deaton, the floor is yours, sir.
Mayor and Council, good evening and thank you. This request comes to you tonight to declare the Victor Mill site an abandoned textile mill site. This request is like those abandoned building resolution requests you've dealt with in the past. It'll allow the developer to realize a income tax credit that is really important relative to that redevelopment project. Richard Few, who's the attorney for the developer, is on this call in the meeting tonight, available to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Few, are you with us this evening?
Yes, Mayor Danner, I am.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you joining us this evening. Council, that comes the recommendation from Mr. Deaton. I'll entertain a motion for discussion. Do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Mr. Arrowwood makes the motion, and was that Ms. Albert that made the second?
Yes.
Okay. Floor now is open for discussion or questions of either Mr. Deaton or Mr. Few, either one.
Well, I would address my question to either one. I'm just curious as to whether this carries with it the same possibilities as the other abandoned building, that it could be turned into a nonprofit at some point, or if that's not the intention.
Mr. Few, would you like to address that?
Sure. Now, the actual plan at this stage is to construct 330 to 350 high-scale apartment building, apartment units on the property. So it'd be a higher class multifamily project.
You're planning on a long-term ownership?
Yes, the developer is local, and he's joined by somebody in Orangeburg. So they've been doing projects across all parts of South Carolina over the last few years. They're in there for the long haul.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Others?
With the approval of this resolution, how much closer does that put us, put the developer to going to construction?
Mr. Deaton?
Well, certainly, and I'll defer to Mr. Few. We've discussed this as an important step relative to the overall redevelopment of this project as the developer puts together the financing package. So I'd describe it as a critical next step. Mr. Few, would you like to add any color to that?
Yeah, they've already run budgetary pro formas. They would get them finalized. This is an important step in the approval process because, as Mr. Deaton indicated, there are income tax credits here that help them with completing the cleanup of the site and getting all the debris removed from the site. And so their projection is they would start construction sometime this year with a completion date of mid-2022.
Others?
Yes. Is that not the area where that came before us not too long ago about the apartment complex going there at the Victor Mill site? Is that not the same thing? They presented the plans and showed us sketches and all of that, or is that something different? I'm sorry.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
It is the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay. Kind of confused me there. Okay, very good. What about the parking lot site where it's proposed for townhomes? Is the construction timetable about the same for it, or is there a different timetable?
I'm not aware of any different timetable for that. It would all be constructed at one time and opened at one time, basically.
Mr. Deaton, any additional information in that regard?
No, sir.
All right.
Are all the apartments on the high-end scale, Rena?
Yes, sir. All the indications have been relative to the developer's representation, as well as those presentations that have been made to council, that this will be a first-class product that the community should be proud of.
Others? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we're going to move to a series of resolutions in regards to accepting city streets, the first of which is item B. This is the first and final reading of resolution number 10-2020. This is a resolution to accept Crosswind subdivision streets, namely Ramshackle Way and Everett Lane, into the City of Greer street system. Robert Rue joins us this evening. Robert is our assistant city engineer. Welcome, Mr. Rue. Any additional or new information that you might bring in regards to resolution number 10-2020?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Good evening. I'm trying to share my screen with you to show a few pictures. First up, we got the Crosswind subdivision, as you mentioned. This site, got it backwards. Sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. Crosswind subdivision started in October 2017. It's located off Super Mill Road in Council District 5. All utilities are in, streets are paved, and it is completely built out at 44 lots. Staff has inspected the construction and believes it meets city standards. Therefore, we recommend Ramshackle Way, length of 513 feet, Everard Lane, length of 798 feet, be accepted into the city's street system for ownership and maintenance.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion to receive resolution 10-2020.
So moved.
Mr. Bettis makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Arrowwood. Any discussion in that regard? Comes with a recommendation from staff.
I don't love Ramshackle for the name of the street.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, I'll say. I guess
Hey,
you know
as a matter from my information, when did that subdivision go under construction?
Began around October of 2017.
Wow. And it's already completely built out, and I guess it's sold out as well.
Some houses are still being finished up, but they have all construction on all lots has been started.
Other than an objection to a street name, is there any other comments to be made this evening? Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council item C is the first and final reading of resolution number 11-2020. This is a resolution to accept Catherine's Garden subdivision streets named Ansel Woods Lane, Presley Court, Delsey Court, Corley Way, Aberley Trail into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Rue, information in that regard, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Catherine's Garden, as you see on your screen here, it's started in September of 2017. It actually started with the county and was later annexed into the city. It's located off Ansel School Road in Council District 4. All utilities are in, streets are paved. This one has 108 lots. And again, with this one, the majority have been built out and a few up construction. Staff has inspected the construction of this site and believes it meets city standards. Therefore, staff recommends Ansel Woods Lane, length 1,030 feet, Presley Court, length of 459 feet, Delsey Court, length of 407 feet, Corley Way, length of 687 feet, and Aberley Trail with a length of 714 feet be accepted into the street system for ownership and maintenance.
Thank you, sir. Comes with a recommendation, resolution number 11-2020. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dumas, a second by Mr. Griffin. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council item D is the first and final resolution number 12, 2020, a resolution to accept Orchard Crest subdivision streets, namely Metamore Road, John Thomas Way, Thomas Edward Lane, Rosabella Lane, Devonfield Drive, and Orchard Crest Court into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. Orchard Crest Phase 1 of this subdivision started in June of 2015. It's located off North Highway 101. It's in Council District 4. All utilities are in, streets are paved, and all 122 lots have been started. They're finishing up construction on a bunch of those as well. Staff has inspected the construction of the roads and believes they meet city standards. Therefore, staff recommends Metamore Road, length of 874 feet, John Thomas Way, length of 1,046 feet, Thomas Edwards Lane, length of 1,650 feet, Rosabella Lane, length of 1,027 feet, Devonfield Drive, length of 956 feet, and Orchard Crest Court, length of 170 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance.
Resolution 12, 2020 comes with a recommendation from staff. Do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dumas makes the motion. I missed the second. Mr.
Second.
Hopper made the second. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Resolution number 13 comes for first and final reading. This is a resolution to accept Redcroft Phase 3 subdivision streets, namely Redcroft Drive, Hawk Ridge Court, Bonsall Court, and Wild Acre Court into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. Redcroft Phase 3. Housing construction just started out there in the past couple months, but the roads were started in June of 2018. It's located off Westmoreland Road in Council District 3. All utilities are in, streets are paved, and as I mentioned, housing construction just started on 56 lots out there. Staff has inspected the construction of the roads and believe they meet city standards. Therefore, we recommend Redcroft Drive, length of 1,350 feet, Hawk Ridge Court, length of 565 feet, Bonsall Court, length of 258 feet, Wild Acre Court, length of 292 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance.
Final reading of Resolution 13-2020 comes with a recommendation from staff. Do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Booth, do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Arrowood seconds. Floor is open for discussion.
Do we normally take in subdivisions? I know it's been annexed into the city, but with them still doing construction, and he said, I understood correctly, it kind of broke up, that they just started construction. Doesn't that seem like with all the big construction trucks going in and out, there would be a lot of wear and tear on the streets?
Yes, ma'am, that's a good question. Typically, we tell developers we wait for 50% build out of the subdivision before we'll inspect and work to accept and take the streets for a reading to you and council. This one, since we've already accepted phases of the subdivision, kind of made a special case with this one since we've already worked with the developer on these.
It seems like most of the ones that we have taken in the past, I haven't been real fond of taking in the streets, but I know we've annexed them into the city, so we need to maintain them, I guess. but the most of the other subdivisions, if not all of them, have basically been completed. So to have one that's just kind of going under and just relatively new and starting, that doesn't sound like a sound plan for the road.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I forgot to mention we do also have a 2-year warranty that the developer signs on these roads. So at the time of the final plat sign, they provide that 2-year warranty. So if any issues do arise during construction, we feel that's a good amount of time and a good mechanism for us to get those repairs made.
Do we still maintain the bond during that 2 years?
Until the roads are accepted, we maintain the bonds, yes.
My question as well.
I answered your question.
Okay. Mr. Ritter, was there any additional information as to why there was a special request on this other than that it's phase 3 of that area out there? Are these streets connected to any of the others in the area?
Yes, sir. They are connected to the other phases of the subdivision, such as Redcroft Drive. I think is the main drive through that subdivision. So just continuation on that one.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
No.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we'll move to item F this evening. This is the first and final reading of Resolution 14-2020. This is a resolution allowing the City of Greer to continue the cooperative agreement with the County of Greenville and the Greenville County Redevelopment Authority in order to maintain urban county status with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Sell has information in regards to this particular request. Mr. Sell?
I think with the exception of Mr. Hopper, I think most of council has seen this request come through at least a couple times, and some of the others probably many more times than that. Every 3 years, the Department of Housing and Urban Development requires the Greenville County Redevelopment Authority to recertify the continuation of Greenville County's Urban County program. The cooperative agreement that is in place is between the county, CRA, and all the municipalities in the county other than the city of Greenville, who operates their own program. What the agreement and the urban county status provides to the city of Greer is access to entitlement grant funding through HUD for CDBG and home partnership funds. It's an advantageous relationship for us because it guarantees funding into the city without us having to apply for grants for housing rehabilitation, new home construction, light demolition, type of special programming directed at low income and workforce housing. We over the years have had a really good working relationship with CRA in this program. In the time that's been in place, millions of dollars have been brought into our community and spent in this regard. Cooperative agreement, the resolution, if council chooses to support the resolution, then it would renew our participation in the program for an additional 3 years. During that time, we would not be able to opt out of that program. If council decided that we have the ability to opt out, we notify them that we're not going to continue to participate. If we did, that would leave us a few options. One option would be to take a look at participating in Fort Worth County's program if we chose to do so, or for us to operate on our own and apply for grants to the small cities or the state's CDBG funding program. Again, those applications would be on a project-by-project basis with no guarantee that any monies would be brought in unless those grant applications were approved. We have had the ability with GCRA recently to pass the budget for the program year, the upcoming program year. That program year is in place. This cooperative agreement, the continuous cooperative agreement, would place us to continue to participate for the 2021, 22, and 23 years moving forward. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Council, as Mr. Sale mentioned early on, we have had this agreement in place with the Greer County Redevelopment Authority as long as I can remember, and I suspect Councilman Griffin would probably echo that as well too. This is just a formalization of our agreement with them, and comes, as Mr. Sale said, every 3 years to us for renewal. So it is up for renewal. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So move.
Mr. Griffin moves. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Airwood was in first on that one. Floor is open for discussion. Questions of Mr. Sale or myself in that regard? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, Police Chief Matt Hanby joins us this evening for the first and final reading of Resolution 15-2020. This is a resolution approving the sale and transfer of city property. Chief Hanby, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I come to you this evening requesting for Council's approval of the City of Greer to convey ownership of one of our police canines, Stryker, to Anna Barnett, who is a recently departed canine officer from Greer Police Department. The Greer Police Department placed canine Stryker into service back in 2014. Anna Barnett was the second handler for Stryker, as the first handler was another employee we had who was promoted to a supervisory position back in 2017. You may or may not know that a police canine is paired up with a handler, and the canine actually lives at the handler's home, which often results in the police canine becoming part of the handler's family. So they not only work together, but they also live together. Anna Barnett served as Stryker's handler from 2017 up until a couple of weeks ago. Anna Barnett was recently offered and she accepted a position at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Anna Barnett approached me and she requested for the ability for her to purchase Stryker from Greer Police Department, as she would like to keep him as a companion and a pet. So I weighed the options of either keeping Stryker as a Greer PD canine, placing him back into service with a new handler, or to allow him to be conveyed and sold to Anna Barnett. The following considerations were identified.
Matt.
Okay.
There you go. All right.
I don't know where I left off.
Following considerations.
Got you. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I apologize. Stryker is 7 years old and a generally accepted police service age of a German Shepherd ranges from 7 to 9 years of age. Stryker was recently diagnosed with a mild case of arthritis and is currently treated with medication for this condition. And this condition could become worse. Stryker has had actually 3 previous handlers, because we found out that Stryker briefly had a handler in the Charleston area that didn't work out for whatever reason prior to Greer PD purchasing him back in 2014. My research revealed that the chances of a 7-year-old canine being successful with a fourth handler is low. Continuing striker in a police service would require anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 for construction of a new kennel and another 6-week training program for a new handler. Additionally, it could take up to 6 months before the new handler could be fully trained and up to a full operating capacity, even furtherly reducing the remaining service life of Stryker. So I'm therefore recommending to council that it is in the best interest of the city, and it is appropriate to sell Canine Stryker to Anna Barnett for the amount of $2,000, which would be an approximate prorated value of the dog. This sale would accompany an agreement that has been drafted by our city attorney that would restrict Anna Barnett from using the canine in any capacity other than a pet, and that she would not use the canine in any kind of law enforcement capacity from this point forward. I believe there is a statute identified by our city attorney that requires an approval from council to proceed with this.
Thank you, sir. You have heard the recommendation of the chief. This is a first and final reading of Resolution 15-2020. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Mr. Bettis.
Second.
And Mr. Arrowood, second.
Yes.
Floor is open for discussion.
Well, the only thing thank you, Stryker, for your service, and we wish you the best as a pet. The only thing I would say, as far as that concerned, is that if the dog's going to be a pet and it's not going to effectively be used as an officer anymore, how did we come up with a value of $2,000?
Well, those are very expensive dogs. The package when we bought the dog, I believe, was around $10,000. Those dogs are imported from, this particular dog was imported from the Czech Republic, and the bloodline is in such a way that the value of the dogs are extremely high. In addition to the investment of the training that we invested with the handler, actually 2 handlers and the canine itself. So that was offered as an amount by Anna Barnett. It was not an amount that I came up with, but I do agree that would be a fair prorated amount from the dogs. What would have been maybe another 1.5 to 2 years maximum of service. So we're now losing that by the sale of the dog.
Okay, so she suggested the amount.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yeah, she's muted. Ms. Albert? There you go. Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to first reading of ordinance number 16-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Chester and Margaret Smith located at 203 East Fairview Avenue from RM residential multifamily to DRD design review. This ordinance is for a zoning request for a parcel located at 203 East Fairview Avenue. Mr. McMahon, do you have an update in regards to ordinance number 16-2020, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This request is to rezone this parcel to DRD to allow for a garage that's currently on the site to be expanded and converted into an accessory dwelling unit. The property owner's parents will be living in this unit. Within their statement of intent, they did list that one of the requirements that we would implement for this property, because it's kind of new for us to have an accessory dwelling unit on the property, was the current property owner had to live in either the primary residence or within the accessory dwelling residence. So they just had to maintain residency in those two buildings. This here is the property on East Fairview. This is the current zoning. It's currently zoned RM1. So a duplex would be allowed on this property, but we just do not allow for an accessory dwelling unit. Here's the future land use showing residential land use 3. This is the current street view of the property. And as you can see, the garage is existing on the rear of the property. This is the area that they will expand. They've only done an addition on the primary house, but the addition will be on to the garage, which is roughly 300 square feet, making it for a total of 800 square feet. And these are just kind of the current issue or stuff in the statement of intent that is set up. So if someone is living on the property that owns it, the basic setbacks that we have with the property, and some building material, such as adding shutters to make it compatible with the current structure. Public hearing was held on this on April 20th, and Planning Commission recommended approval of the DRD zoning request. That's all that I have at this time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
For the purpose of discussion, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dumas, a second by Mr. Arrowood. Mr. McMahon, does this include any reference to the other structure in a deed, or is it in a deed or anything in terms of the future use of the building?
Right now, with the way our DRD works, that statement of intent would tie them to allowing it to be used as an accessory dwelling unit. So they potentially down the road, if the parents were to move out, they could rent it out, but the primary residence would have to have a residence on that property. They would have to stay in either one of those.
Okay. Others, questions of Mr. McMahon?
Brandon, is this, I haven't heard this come up very often. Is this something that we're going to try to have, I guess, a more bulletproof policy on going forward, or is this going to be, or are these accessory dwellings going to be DRD, or how are we going to move with that going forward?
That's a great question. That's one of the things we're looking at doing when we redo our zoning ordinance, is to kind of get it updated to current standards. Right now, accessory dwelling units are really big in a lot of areas. We just haven't caught up, and we're just starting to see that stuff now.
I see in a lot of larger cities, you'll see renovations and there's always basement apartments and garage apartments and different things like that. And as our city grows and land becomes more and more expensive and density increases, I can definitely see a lot of the units going forward. And I'd love for us to have something in place to reference.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
Yes, we're here.
And that is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, correct?
Yes.
Do you want to add to our conversation? Is there anything that you could help council with here in terms of intent and what y'all see long range happening on the property there?
Well, basically what it is my mother is 97 years old and she lives in Charlotte in a retirement center. And I want to bring her to Greenville to live with us. But she has a pet and we have a blind and deaf dog, and her dog and our dog do not get along. And the dog is like her life. So she will come if we will create a separate place where she can live and it's handicap accessible and she can have her dog. So that's the whole purpose behind this. We're not looking for rental property. We just need a place for my mother.
All righty, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Other council, other questions of the Smith or Mr. McMahon? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Miss Albert?
Yes.
Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you. We appreciate it, Ms. Smith. Council will move to the first reading of ordinance number 17-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Demetrius Chalkus located at 701 West Poinsett Street from C2 to DRD. Mr. McMahon, information in regards to ordinance number 17-2020, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This request is, we had one of these recently at 306 West Poinsett, which you will again see tonight. They are requesting a rezoning also. What we're getting a little bit more interest in is like live work units, and that's what this applicant is requesting. Their hope is to convert the rear of the first floor and the entire second floor into basically a 3-bedroom apartment. To continue the use of the business on the front end, they will be required to create an ADA bathroom for the commercial part and be required to have a 13R residential sprinkler system installed throughout the building. This is the property. It's right next to the Clock Restaurant. It's currently zoned C2 and it backs up to RM2. This is the future land use shown in residential land use 2 community along a neighborhood corridor. This is the current street view. And this here is a layout of the house. So as you see, the front of the business would face Wade Hampton. You would see the kind of reddish section is the business. The rear back here would be the residential, and the second floor would be all residents. And this is just from the statement of intent, breaking down kind of what we discussed tonight. This did go to Planning Commission on April 20th. They did make a recommendation to approve the DRD zoning request. That's all that I have at this time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. For the purpose of discussion, do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Bettis makes a motion. Mr. Airwood seconds. Floor is open for discussion. Questions of Mr. McMahon? Is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
I do not believe he's online, sir.
Thank you. Others? Hearing no questions, Mrs. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Miss Albert.
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, the next item before us this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 18-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Michael S. Bruce, located on North Highway 14 from R7.5 to a DRD. Mr. McMahon, information in that regard, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This property is being rezoned to DRD for a future townhome community development. Within their statement of intent, they are requesting up to 147 townhomes ranging from 1,200 square feet to 1,850 square feet with a combination of exterior materials such as vinyl siding, hardy board, brick, stone. They'll have to have a combination of 2 of those materials. They are also proposing both passive and active common space. This is the site in question. It's near the intersection right there at Country Club Road. They will have to get an encroachment permit from SCDOT, and I believe they are working on that now. The property is currently zoned R75 with some C2 around it. And it's in a residential land use 3 community. This is the current site plan that they are proposing. This will have to go back to Planning Commission for final development plan approval. But as you see the layout, they will have one entrance onto Highway 14. These are the elevations that they've submitted that will be a part of the ordinance. It just shows the mix of building material. And this is just a brief overview of of the statement of intent that we've gone over tonight. That's all the information I have for this at this time. I do apologize. This did go to Planning Commission for a public hearing on April 20th, and they made a recommendation of approval.
I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Mr. Dimas
Second.
moves and Mr. Airwood seconds. Mr. McMahon, will you go back to a street map, please, sir? I didn't get quite oriented to where we are talking about.
So if you're coming up 14 kind of towards Taylor Road, as you just pass the right turn that you would make onto Country Club, this is the property almost directly to the left. There's a lot of kudzu on the property currently right now, and it's got an overhead power line easement running through it.
Okay, and that's floodplain at the very bottom down there, almost where your arrow was just a minute ago?
Yes, sir. The white right here in this map is the floodplain on the property.
Floodplain, okay. All right. Okay, I know what we're talking about.
So they'll probably have to make their entrance on up 14 there, right?
Yes, sir. They're showing their entrance right up here on 14. So it's going to be further up from that intersection there at Country Club.
Is the owner of the property, a representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
I'm here. My name is Paul Harrison. I work with
Mr. Harrison, if you could either speak up or turn your volume up just a little bit. We're having a difficult time hearing you. I can hear you, but just barely.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
There we go. There we go. Yeah, we're good now. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So I am representing the applicant for this application, and we're the civil engineer for the site and for the project, and I'd be glad to answer any questions or concerns that anyone has.
All right, if you'll stand by. Thank you for joining us this evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Floor's open for discussion.
How many units was this going to be?
Yes, sir. This is up to 147. The current site plan is showing 143.
Well, I can tell you right now, it's going to be a traffic problem, because it already is a traffic problem right there. You ever been there in the morning and afternoon?
Yeah, and that's not going to connect you to the intersection right there on Taylor Road with the houses. It looks like it's directly on 14. There's only one way in and out?
There is only one way in and out, and it's going to be right there on 14. I don't know if you can see the arrow, but it's right here at this location. They will have to get encroachment permits from DOT, and I believe, Paul, have you already started with the traffic study on this one?
We're working through that currently. The problem with our traffic studies right now are the fact that schools are shut down. So there's kind of a freeze on traffic impact studies right now, unless you do one with estimated traffic counts, but DOT prefers those be done while school's in session. So we're just waiting for that opportunity to get our traffic counts and get our traffic impact study underway.
It's going to be a while.
I hope not.
I guarantee you it's going to be a while.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a very challenging intersection. I mean, whether you're trying to take a right from all the traffic coming into town to work in the mornings, or whether you're taking a left in the afternoon at any time trying to get into the subdivision, I think just having one way in and one way out is going to create an issue. And if I remember this property correctly, there's a pretty substantial grade from the road down into the community. And maybe I don't know the lay of the land well enough. I do remember there being kind of a pond there, and then it's just down from the intersection at Taylor Road. But I guess I'd have to drive back by and take a closer look at it now.
You're exactly right, and I can tell you this: as soon as you come off of Highway 14, there's a substantial draw/wetland area that we're going to have to almost cross immediately. That's one of the main reasons we would like to limit the layout to one access in, just because of our permitting through the Corps of Engineers. But what we've done is we proposed a wider entrance into the subdivision, knowing that we only had one shown, to kind of satisfy the fire marshal and the fire department. But we probably understand that we're going to have to do road improvements to Highway 14 and provide left turn movements in and out of the subdivision.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? Comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to the first reading of ordinance number 19-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Pandion Properties LLC located at 306 West Poinsett Street from DRD to OD. Mr. McMahon, information in that regard, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This ordinance or this property came before y'all back in August of 2019. The applicant was originally requesting to do a mixed-use office/residential. The applicant has gotten some cost estimates for what it would cost to install a commercial sprinkler system, and it kind of was cost prohibitive for him to do that. So he is requesting to rezone the property back to OD. This is the property in question. I apologize. This is the current zoning showing that DRD. It was originally OD. This is the current future land use. And this is the current street view. A public hearing was held for this on April 20th, and Planning Commission recommended approval to rezone the property back to OD. That's all that I have at this time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Council, for the purpose of discussion, will entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Bettis moves and Mr. Hopper seconds. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
Sir, I'm here, Kevin Bird.
Mr. Bird, thank you for joining us this evening. Any additional information you'd like to provide, or anything that you'd like council to know in regards to the request?
No, sir. I believe Brandon did a good job explaining it. Just we uncovered that the water line is on the wrong side of the street, so that was going to make the project astronomically more expensive than we originally planned.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Any further questions or comments, council? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, let's proceed to the first reading of ordinance number 20-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of properties owned by Culberson Land Company, West C. Culberson, located at 606 and 610 North Main Street from C2 to C3. Mr. McMahon, an overview of ordinance number 2020, please, sir.
Yes, sir. The applicant is requesting to rezone from C2 to C3. This is a current street view. This is the old Greer car wash, Main Street car wash. This is the current zoning of the property. To the rear of the property, up to Quality Foods, all of that property on that road back there is currently zone C3. This is the future land use map. This property lays within the transit-oriented corridor, which is where we kind of expect to have that higher use commercial property. And this is the current street view. Public hearing was held for this on April 20th, and Planning Commission recommended approval of the C3 zoning request. The owner of the property is looking to do a future development for, I believe, a liquor store and laundromat. And that is all the information I have at this time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion to receive for the purpose of discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Bettis moves. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There was second. Floor is open for discussion. Question?
Is that location where the oak was at?
It was, yes, ma'am. It was where the car wash and I believe that piece. The other piece is there was an old laundromat there at one point in time.
Yeah, there was a 1 hour Martinizing. That was the name of the laundromat.
It's just below where the barbecue is.
Right. Okay.
Is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Mayor and everybody, for letting us in and let us give us our feedback.
Would you like to provide council with any information in regards to the project that might be helpful for our decision?
So yes, thank you so much. So we are a small developer out of Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm a resident of Greer, South Carolina. So the property had a car wash and a dry cleaner. And what we are proposing here is a wet cleaning process with the laundromat, self-cleaning laundromat, and a liquor store possibility. So the reason why we are asking C3 zone permission, so it's, first of all, it's surrounded by two sides surrounded by C3 zoning. And if we apply for a C3 chances of, having more possibilities rather than just two of the proposal business, what we have, think about it. So we're trying to just do a new development here in very close to Greer downtown, and happy to, have one of the opportunity right here in Greer, heart of Greer.
Thank you for the information. Council, any further questions? Comments?
So
go ahead.
Yes, is instead of a laundry or instead of a it's going to be a laundromat. Is that what I understand?
That is correct. It's going to be a laundromat and a wet cleaning process, meaning drop off and pickup station. So it's not a dry clean station where we expose to all these chemicals. This is going to be a water-based plant only.
Others?
Do you think there'll be very much? There's not very much residents around there that seem like they would require the laundromat.
So it's a very good question. Thank you so much for asking. So we recently opened up a franchise called Laundry Plus. It's about 5 miles from this existing location in Greenville on Howell Street. We did our feasibility survey, and I think the greater demand in the current time of not just self-run laundromat, but this is going to be a wash and fold station. So we have experience after 1 year of opening that this is in a greater demand. It's not just a typical laundromat, and it's more in a high end and fit for the community right here in Greer too. And we have done our studies, and I think, ma'am, it supports that location, support that
laundromat. What's the name of the entity?
We have just, it's a process to purchase the location based on approval. So if we get approval, we will have to establish the company, but we have made all the provisions to support this construction to develop the site, sir.
You said you already have one somewhere?
We do have, and it's called a Laundry Plus in Greenville, South Carolina. So we have a website up and running. What we are trying to do here is develop the location and have, different franchisor run this under one umbrella. And the corporation name is MBVM Investments. Mary, Bob, Victor, Mary. We have almost 16 months and we saw a great success. And I would request every member to please visit, if possible, the website and look at the review, what City of Greenville wants to say about that. It's really of a need kind of in every single cities in around, South Carolina. We have seen this in the North and West, and it's an upcoming business, just like we have seen this new car washes and all that. And this is new laundromat without having any chemical use. This is going to be only water-based treatment, and it's very a successful business for me, at least in Greenville. And we are thinking to open at least 5 in upstate South Carolina. This will be our second location if we get approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we've come to the last item of regular business this evening. It's the first and final it's the first reading of ordinance. First reading of ordinance number 21-2020. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Curtis Hip, located on Victor Avenue from RM1 to DRD for said property. Mr. McMahon, information in that regard, sir?
Yes, sir. As you stated, this request is for a DRD zoning for the future townhome community. Within the statement of intent, they are requesting to do up to 90 townhomes, ranging from very similar to the other project on 1,200 square feet to 1,850 square feet, with the same combination of material of brick, stone, vinyl siding, and hardy plank. The site will have both passive and active open space. This is the property that we're showing currently on Victor, and it's right down from the Victor Mill project that will be going on pretty soon. Property is currently zoned RM1. Future land use shows that this is a residential land use 3 community. This is the proposed site plan. They will have exterior sidewalks and internal sidewalks, as we do on all of our developments. And you may see this elevation. It's the same builder that is doing the project on Highway 14. They also have another project within Greer that they're currently doing out on Brushy Creek. Planning Commission heard the request for the rezoning on April 20th, and they made a recommendation to approve. And this is just an overview of the statement of intent, but I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So move.
Mr. Griffin moves and Mr. Arrowood seconds. Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. McMahon, may I ask the renderings that we're seeing for both of those projects, those elevations, do we know what the material is? It was a little hard for me to tell based on the photo. What is the actual building material? Look like stone? Is that vinyl or hardy plank?
So yes, sir. It will have a combination of some vinyl. If they do vinyl, it's similar to the other project. Within their statement of intent, when we met with them for PAC, we asked for kind of a higher quality vinyl if they were going to go that route. So that just means it's a thicker vinyl, has more of a better shape and doesn't kind of wave as much. But with this, they will have to have 2 elements. So if they do vinyl, they will also either have to have some type of brick accent, some type of stone accent, that type of thing. So we're starting to put that within our DRDs to try to get some design standards in there for our stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening?
I am. This is Paul Harrison again with Blue Water. I'm here to answer any questions that council may have. And the applicant's also on the line, Doug Hunt.
Okay, any additional information that you'd like to add in regards to conversation about design or materials or anything in that regard?
I think Brandon did a good job of explaining them. As he said, it's the same builder. It's basically the same product that would go in Clarebrook on Highway 14. He really likes Greer and this area, and he sees it as a good project, a good development, and to be it's excited about the opportunity of both developments.
All right, if you'll stand by, Mr. Harrison. Questions or comments from council? Questions? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, guys.
Council, that concludes our regularly scheduled meeting this evening. That is all the items that we had for discussion. We do have a matter for executive session. If someone would like to make a motion for us to go into executive session, we have one item to consider this evening, and it's a personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
We have to make the motion.
Mr. Dumas, would you like to do that for us, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pertaining to the administration department as allowed by state statute section 30-470A1.
We now can entertain a motion to proceed.
Judy, second that.
No motion.
Okay, we've got a motion from Judy and a second by...
We got the motion from Lee.
I made the motion. I just need a second.
Lee and a second by Judy, excuse me. Miss Albert, excuse me. Motion and a second on the floor. Miss Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.